Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Thursday, and all of our guests today, including Farhan Lalji, standing by in Portugal, are brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Giants home opener Friday, September 20th against Seattle. Season ticket packs now on sale. All season ticket packs now include access to WHL Live, so you never miss a game, as well as the first 2 home playoff games, plus flexible payment plans available with no additional costs. For more info, email sales@vancouvergiants.com or call 604-4-GIANTS. As we head, Rick, overseas, Portugal, to talk to the vacationing. I guess he's working right now. The vacationing Farhan Lalji from TSN. Oh, my God.
Disgusting.
This is, oh, my God, right here, boys. Right
okay.
here.
The beaches of Portugal.
All right.
There you go. That's we're on the Algarve. This is a Dan Murphy recommendation, actually. Told me that he heard I was thinking to go to Portugal. He's like, you got to go to this place. So thankfully the Bonvoy points allowed it, but this is it's ridiculous. We're right on the Mediterranean here, so it's fun, guys. And my accountant will be thrilled because now I can probably write a portion of this trip off talking to you guys, right? I mean,
that's the only reason you're here. That's the only reason you're doing this hit. Why don't you just admit it?
Look, I've done trips from Hawaii with you guys, with various NFL stops. I try to bring a cultural element to this show. So you need that.
Well, would you recommend Portugal as a place to go? I don't know who wouldn't.
Well, it's funny. I've been having this debate with my wife and kids because this is what they want, like resort life. Well, you can get resort life anywhere. So I do want to get into town, and we just got here yesterday. I want to experience Portugal. I want to get to some smaller places. Mike Benavides has a bunch of recommendations for me. We're going to be in Lisbon on the weekend, so I want to get to some places that make me feel like that, as opposed to this where we can kind of do this anywhere. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. Not complaining. I'm loving it. However, you got to experience all that, right?
There's not a chance you're getting out of that chair, Farhan. Come on.
Not a chance.
Admit it.
Hey, Mike, you might get me out a little bit.
Hey, okay.
I might even shave.
That's okay. Don't worry. You're looking good, buddy. Your reaction to the Canucks move, sending Ilya Mikheyev and a second-rounder to Chicago for basically what amounts to some significant cap space.
Yeah, it is interesting. We always try to find a way for this team to kind of thread the needle when they get through these situations, and they were actually able to do that, right? I mean, you go back to the JT Miller trade to get him from Tampa, and people still criticize the fact that they weren't able to extract greater value because Tampa was in a tough situation. And here they've done that, because when you look at Chicago, the Canucks have given up a second-round pick in 2027. So who knows what those picks will look like then, but you've got a Chicago team that probably has some other reasons, in terms of number of contracts, the number of picks that they've got, where you don't want to load yourself up with too many contracts and things like that. They were able to get that done for a small amount of retention. I think you got to take your hat off to Patrick Allvin and what they were able to do here, because this could have been a lot worse. They had no interest in bringing Sam Lafferty back, so that part of it's irrelevant. So the fact that you could retain 15% and push these draft picks 4 years down the road, this is a big win. And I do think that Mikheyev's got more in it. Do I think he's going to be a 25-goal scorer? I don't, but Mikheyev's going to be one of those guys that he spent the last year trying to recover versus spending the last year trying to progress. And this year he'll be able to progress, and he will be a better player next year, and he'll have way lower expectations. So people might look at that and lament, but I don't think he was ever going to live up to his contract here.
Okay, Farhan, I'm going to hit you with something right now. You might actually have to think and work here. This just in, the Canucks have extended Dakota Joshua. Do we have any details, Ryan, at all?
Yeah, it's 4 years, $3.25 million per season.
3.2?
3.25.
If I could take one hand off the phone, I would clap right now, because I have been stumping for Dakota Joshua for a long time. And, people were saying to me, you're crazy. You can't be selling high on this or buying high on this. Yes, you can. If you looked at this player last year, the way he was able to handle the puck and score goals before the wrist injury, this guy is going to ascend. And I know he's now, in the 27 range, Doesn't matter. He's still got a lot of good years ahead of him. 4 years is just fine. 3.2 is going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what the salary cap is going to look like down the road. This guy can be a legitimate second-line player for this team and be very good over 82 games. I love this signing. It's the right number. He's earned it. Bravo. Again, if I could take my hand off one, I'd clap if I could do that. But I thought this was the right number and the right term. I knew he'd hit a bit of a home run by his standards, but you got the best out of him with Rick Tocchet. I think it's only going to continue. This is a good deal for both sides.
I don't even want to ask what's in your other hand that you can't clap. We'll just move on from here. Okay.
I didn't bring a tripod with me. It's the phone, man.
Okay, I'm not touching that line. Hey, can you envision a second line if let's say they miss out on Gensel and Toffoli, and I've been talking about this for a while because these two guys were pretty good together last year, Garland and Joshua with Pettersson. Would that be so bad?
Not at all. I mean, and look, with Gensel, everybody wants him. Everybody thinks he's the answer, and he may be. You just don't know what that contract's going to look like, 7-8 years, if that's how long it is, a 7-year deal, and what the final 3 to 4 years of that deal are going to look like. But in terms of the next 2 seasons, I have no doubt that Jake Gensel is going to be able to produce at a high level. And I think Tyler Toffoli, this was the worst move. And people talk about Tanev, but the Toffoli deal was the biggest miss coming out of COVID. And we know that, the owner was kind of pulling back on cash and they couldn't find a way to make it work. And what was the famous quote from Jim Benning? I can't even remember. We ran out of time. Ridiculous. For what they paid Jake Virtanen, and a minor additional move, they absolutely could have gotten Tyler Toffoli done 4 years ago. I think it was a big miss for this team then. If they can get it done for 3 years now, I think they should absolutely go after it. I think it'd be a much more cost-effective option. So if they can get one of those guys and you can get them and Dakota Joshua and put them on a line with Pettersson, I think they're going to be in a much better position going forward, because I think that's a real concern with Pettersson right now. You've got to rebuild this player. And look, he's young enough that it can absolutely happen, but you got to find a way to get that done, and they need to support him because they didn't last year with who they were playing him with. Again,
if you're just tuning in, folks, the Canucks on top of the Ilya Mikheyev news yesterday, along with Lafferty and Bluger, they've signed Dakota Joshua to a 4-year deal, $3.25 million AAV. As we continue our conversation with Farhan Lalji, what do you think the fan base's confidence level should be, especially given this flurry of news in Alvin and Rutherford right now, Farhan?
I think Alvin and Rutherford have done their part, and it's interesting because they get a lot of credit for kind of unraveling the cap. And really, in terms of the cap, the major moves that they've done is the buyout around OEL. But then, last year we got Garland and Besser, who kind of lived up to their contracts and lived up to their value. They weren't inefficient anymore. Same with Tyler Myers. But I think there's been a number of moves, some of them subtle, some of them major. You don't give anyone necessarily credit for a buyout, but they've been able to kind of get off some other deals in subtle fashion. And I think overall they've shown an ability to do that. There have been mistakes like Mikheyev, right, where they bought high and they bought on projection and what he could be on a 1-year anomaly kind of deal. But overall, I think their body of work since taking over has been really good, and they know what the task at hand is. I think the first year, Rutherford was self-critical that we couldn't improve the blue line as much as we needed to. But then after that, I think they've made significant moves and they pushed the right buttons. So they know what the task is. They weren't able to get it done at the deadline last year in terms of trying to get that additional top 6 forward. But I believe they're going to find a way to do that this offseason beyond just Dakota Joshua. I think you're going to see either a major piece in Gensel or some B-level pieces in a Toffoli type of guy coming next year. I have no doubt that they're going to find a way to get that done with the cap space available to them this offseason.
Yeah, the Lions play Edmonton tonight. Just before we let you go, I had a whole bunch of football questions to ask you. I'm sure Neil McAvoy will be happy about this. But
that's the dessert, man.
Yeah,
that's the dessert.
It is.
That's not work.
But, Farhan, what did the Lions show you last week, hanging on to beat a real desperate Winnipeg team on the road? Quickly.
Well, what I loved is Vernon Adams playing clutch time, as well as what the defense was able to do. But more than anything, going into that game, they needed to show that their offensive line could play at a certain level, and I think they've got that, right? So I think with the changes that they've made, and they'll get Michael Couture back eventually, but the changes they made there left people a lot to get excited about. And then, I've heard great things about Keon Hatcher and TJ Lee's recovery. So they're going to get those guys back soon. So as long as they can continue to progress along the lines of scrimmage, which I think what we've seen in the last week, I think was great. If they can continue that, I think there's a lot to be excited about with this team going forward. Now I got to decide, do I want to be up at 3 a.m. to watch this game tonight so that I can talk to you about it in an educated fashion next week?
Well, I'm sure that at 3 a.m. and a week from now when we talk to you again, you'll be pasted to that chair on the beach. You're not going into town. You're not going anywhere. Thanks for this, Farhan.
No. All right, see you guys.